Welcome to the Winner Circle, the podcast covering jiu-jitsu, MMA, and other combat sports. I am one of your hosts, Eugene Plowden, and with me is this week, Isaiah Gathings. What's up, man?
What's going on? How you been, man?
I'm good. If this is your first time with us, I want you to know we are members of the Martial Arts in the Martial Arts in the Network. On Mondays, you got the Winner Circle with myself, Isaiah Gathings, Chris Walker, and Angel Diaz. On Tuesdays, you got the Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. Wednesdays, you can get the traditional way with Brett Shumway. Thursdays is Fist Kicks and Flicks with myself, Angel Diaz, and Joe Hartley. For more information, you can check us out on all of our social media platforms. Just look for the Martial Arts in the Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. Isaiah, it's showtime. What's up, man? How you been?
Hey, man, I've been all right, man. Just chugging along day by day. How about you?
Yeah, I've been good, man. Well, I've been traveling a lot, and
That's right.
what I did was I went back and just now I looked to see what episode this was. This is episode 7, and the last time we did a show was July 14th. And I remember what we talked about right before we start recording that episode, but
We're gonna be consistent. You have our word, like a politician, right? And then you look up, and it's been like 3-4 weeks. Well, we're averaging about an episode. What are we doing? This about 7 months now, so we're averaging about one episode a month now. So there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, we gonna be all right. We gonna get the hang of it, But you're an electrician, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm an account executive for a cell phone company. Angel is a teacher. Chris is a martial arts instructor, but Chris also works with Waco. I think he's head of the judges, I believe, referees. I believe. Hopefully, I know he's affiliated with Waco in some form of capacity, and I believe it's with the judges. So we all have other jobs and responsibilities. Yeah. All of us are parents also. So life just gets in the way sometimes. That's why Angel's not on right now. Angel's going to take some time off from podcasting because Angel's getting married next year. So he has some things coming up. So he's real busy. Plus, it's the beginning of school. School goes back here tomorrow morning. I'm not sure about Connecticut where Angel lives though.
Yeah, I talked to one of my students there. He was saying that, and I'm like, okay, this threw me off. When did this change? Because I know that used to be back in the DPS. It used to be after Labor Day. So I'm thinking that there's another week, and that actually kind of threw me off based on, like, I normally change our schedule for the summer, and then I change it back when the fall comes. We make the times a little bit earlier over the summer, and then in the fall, because I know school comes back in September, we normally take the times where they're a little bit late. He informed me of this today, and I'm like, man, we're gonna have probably like really low attendance this week because I was planning on changing the times after Labor Day and implementing those new times. I wasn't aware that they're going back before Labor Day. Now that's new to me.
Yeah, it's been about maybe like the last 4 or 5 years they went back to that. So
really,
yeah, it's been a couple of years now, man. It's stupid. I can never keep track because I know when I was a kid, we went before Labor Day. As a matter of fact,
exactly.
when I was in elementary school, I went to a private school, and my private school always went back in August, like the third week of August. We always
Most of the private schools and the suburban schools, they went back somewhere in the middle of August. But the DPS, I just remember it was Labor Day was a big thing. It was like after Labor Day, that was the big hurrah. And then whatever that day was after Labor Day, that's when you were starting back school, even if it was in the middle of the week.
Well, so when I was in high school, I went back before Labor Day, but it was like the week before Labor Day. Like it was like how it is, like how they're doing now. Like we went back Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and it had Thursday and Friday off or something like that, and then you had Monday off, and then you were in full swing. But after sometime in the early 2000s, they went to and my mom explained. My mom is a former teacher. She's retired from being a teacher. She explained it to me a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember. But at some point in time in the early 2000s, they switched it and then started having the kids go to school after Labor Day, which it just kind of makes sense to me. Just leave it alone, leave it like that.
Yeah, because they go back to school and then that following week they're gonna have a day off. Like school or anything is about look who's talking with these podcasts, right? It's about
Right.
consistency. It's about
Right.
consistency, right? So
Mhm.
once they start school, you want them to keep going. You don't want them to have just come off of a break and then they go back to school and then now they got a 3-day weekend. That doesn't make any sense. And I think that the time fluctuated, if I remember correctly, based on when they would release the kids from school. Back in the day, it was the first week of June they would release the kids from school, which means that, to your point, they might be able to have them go back late in August or something like that.
Mhm.
But what happened was they started pushing that date back,
Mhm.
where it was like
Yep.
around the 15th and even the
Yep.
20th, the 25th, they were letting kids out of school. They
Mhm.
couldn't justifiably turn around and make these kids go back to school at the end of August. So they start stretching it out until after Labor Day to be able to make up the difference, because I guess they were supposed to be so many weeks that they were off, and that was dependent on when you released them for the summer break to begin with.
And now also too, they have those snow days included. Not only that, man, sometimes if we're not getting a lot of snow days, they'll let the kids stay home because it's too cold. And that's crazy to me because I never got to stay home because it was too cold.
No.
It's not like we had school outside. We weren't
Right.
we weren't sitting around on park benches outside,
But it's
having
tough on
class.
kids because growing up, for the most part, we didn't have a car. So for the majority of my childhood, there was brief stints in time that we did, but the majority of my childhood, we did not have a car.
Mhm.
So that meant I was either walking to school or at least walking to stand at the bus stop, waiting on the bus. And I'm telling you, like we like to use this as a badge of honor, talking about how it's different and we were tougher and stuff like that. But it was miserable as a kid, man, having to stand out there in those sub-zero temperatures, waiting on the school bus to be able to arrive, and freezing because my mama wasn't letting you miss no days. Like
Yeah,
you wasn't missing no school, no
No.
matter what. You
Nah.
couldn't get out of it. There ain't no excuse you can come up with. You not staying home.
Mm-mm.
So I was one of those ones, just like you and a lot of other people, that used to sit up at night and you have to watch the news and you watch at the bottom of the screen to see if your school went across is going to be closed. And when you didn't see your school on the bottom of it, you was heartbroken because you knew that no matter what those temperatures look like tomorrow, you was gonna be out there in them. So
yeah, you know what, man? When I went to the private schools, like first through 8th grade, I was in private schools, and we had our schools would be on that list. DPS, Detroit Public Schools, was never on that.
Never
on that damn. Like, I think one time in 10th grade was the only time I had a day off. It was because we had an ice storm in Detroit. But other than that, man, I don't remember ever having snow days when I went to Redford High School.
It's because the weather would have had to lead to something catastrophic happening to the school itself to prevent them from being able to operate normally. Like an ice storm would have had to knock out the power. The ice got on the lines end up coming down and knocked the power out, which also knocked out the heat or something like that, or the heating unit. They weren't able to warm the school up to a certain manageable temperature. They weren't going to be on there just because it was snowing or it was cold. If the school was able to function at normal capacity, then they were like, well, look, you can make it, you can get here and you can come for classes, But if it was something that prevented them from being able to operate in a normal capacity, that's when they would typically close it because of the weather.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, man, I don't remember ever having days off. But you know what, man? After COVID, I always thought, well, because they're doing these classes, you can have class from home now. I just assumed that was going to be the norm. That okay, we're going to close schools because of the weather, but guess what? Hop on that laptop, hop on that tablet. We got school from home. That's what I thought was going to happen, but I haven't seen that.
I think that takes some planning, you know what I mean, on multiple people's parts, and then that also takes some assuming that a child has access to a viable computer or laptop, and they have internet. And I remember that being a thing some years ago around the time there was COVID, and they were actually setting up for kids to be able to go to school remotely and things like that. That was a concern, that they were trying to put some type of programs together, certain places, to make sure that every kid had a laptop, and that every home had internet service and things like that. But now that, because we're past that, I mean, and to be honest, I mean, what kid doesn't really have some type of cell phone, tablet, or access to some type of computer or internet service? Honestly, that's just really probably most likely an excuse nowadays. But I think that it still just takes planning to be able to consider those things, make sure that the teacher is prepared to be able to do it. And I just think it's not as easy as just hitting a switch and saying, okay, we're going to go remote. So,
All right, let's get into some of our topics, man. So we're going to start off talking about boxing because we have some potential big fights coming up pretty soon. Yeah. Now, I'm going to start actually talking about the fight that I doubt will happen, and that's Claressa Shields versus Laila Ali. Laila Ali is in her 40s. I don't think she's going to, she has nothing to prove fighting Claressa Shields. Do you think that fight's going to happen?
I have mixed feelings about it, whether it's going to happen or not, and I'll explain why. Floyd Mayweather implemented this thing and found a loophole to where boxing matches are able to happen, and you can go out there and get your behind whooped in front of the entire world, and then it's like it never happened. Oh no, that never happened. We didn't box. I saw you out there. Oh no, that was an exhibition.
Yeah,
he's found a way to use this word exhibition, and this has changed the landscape of boxing, because by doing that, you are now saying that I can go out and I can perform at whatever level, and then I could just lean on the fact that there was modified rules and it wasn't actually a boxing match because it's not even on my record. Despite what your eyes saw, despite what happened, if it's classified as an exhibition, people are going to be drawn to want to go out there. They're throwing insane amounts of money at these people. It's going to be something that people are now, if they wasn't thinking about it before, it's at the front of their mind, the top of their mind right now. And to be honest with you, a lot of these people, believe it or not, they didn't even really know who Laila Ali was, because there's such a big gap between when she stopped fighting and when Claressa started fighting, and there's a totally different generation of individuals. So people probably had to go back and look at her and like, okay, well, I didn't even know that this woman existed, and if I did, I didn't know she was bad and she was dominant like this. So it sparked so much interest now that I think it's going to be very difficult to get it to die down, to not happen. But as you articulated, in your 40s and you just have nothing to prove, I don't know if it should happen, but we do have to remember that her father, he also, for different reasons, he fought years past his prime as well. And, those fights didn't really go well, and it did not bode well from him from a health perspective either. But he did it for different reasons than her. She may want to choose to preserve his legacy by not fighting and letting people remember her, in her prime boxing era. Or she may try to prove to honor her father's legacy by being able to come back out of retirement and fight in her later years, and then prove something to the rest of the world by dethroning, Claressa Shields. So I have mixed feelings about it, large in part due to the fact that you can slide and use the word exhibition now and kind of get away with going out there and performing and maybe not performing your best, and then still not using it to count against you or your legacy.
I like the fact that she said, she needs 15 mil to have that fight, and Claressa went and got the 15 mil. She got investors in it. I mean, that was a bold, smart move by Claressa to do that. It is.
I think that was a number that she came up with to be so insanely ridiculous of a number, to just be like, ain't nobody about to pay no woman, boxer to be able to come up. So let me come up with this absurd number. And she like, I'll be right back. I got the money. So when are we doing this?
Right.
And Claressa has something to prove, because for those who are familiar with Laila and do know her, that's going to be looming over her head the whole time. You remember Rocky V, where he had everybody in his ear talking about Rocky, and he got just so upset. And his manager, his promoter, he was like, man, look, if you don't fight this guy, he's like, this gonna be in your ear the whole time, like the rest of your career. You're gonna always be his shot. You're gonna always be his puppet. I think that she's kind of going through that now. The people she's beating, she's handling so easily. And to be honest with you, she's went through everybody to a point to where many of the people she's fighting, we've just simply never heard of before. So there's no vested interest in it, because I don't know some of these people, and I do follow boxing, and I'm like, I don't know who this woman is. You know what I mean? Like, women boxing isn't as big and prominent as obviously the men as it is. And then to not have enough suitable names that carries a level of weight behind it, like her name, most of these people, it just looks mixed match to begin with. So she's got to get a big name like Layla that everybody knows, or that has some type of historical boxing impact or value. And if she doesn't start beating these people or fighting these people like her, then she's gonna hear those chirps in her ear, just like on Rocky V her whole career.
It's interesting you went with Rocky V. I was thinking about Rocky VI when Antonio Tarver and Rocky ended up going at it, because Rocky had been retired for years and he wasn't even thinking about boxing. He was running his restaurant, and they did a little thing on Sports Center or whatever, ESPN or whatever, showing who would win between him, and I can't remember Tarver's name in that movie, and Rocky ended up winning the little video that they played, and that got to him, and they wanted to make that fight happen. So
I guess that probably would be closer to that situation that's happening right now. I think that would be a much more suitable reference.
Mm-hmm. But something you did bring up, you were bringing up the fact of the exhibition fight, and that leads to our next fight, Jake Paul against Tank Davis. Now, unlike Layla Ali, Tank is going to take the fight against Jake Paul. Would you do that? Like, to me, it's like, why? Like, this dude's a heavyweight, you're a lightweight, and they're going to skate the rules by having it be an exhibition fight. I don't think that Tank is going to get knocked out by Jake, because I think they're going to put that in place, that we're not trying to knock each other out. I think it's just going to be just like when Tyson fought Roy Jones, and that wasn't a good fight. It was boring. Like, what's the point? Like, you watch boxing to see somebody get knocked out,
right?
And I don't think Jake Paul or Tank are going to try and really knock each other out. I don't think it's going to be like a real fight like people are expecting it to be. I don't know, man. I don't understand why people like are letting these guys get clout off of their name. Like, don't you want to preserve your legacy and your name? Like, you gonna do it all for the bag? Layla is not doing that with Clarissa. She's like,
I don't understand how they don't see that it's a play to be able to use their name and their legacy. I mean, if I call somebody out right now, who am I until I fight that person? Win or lose, now I'm somebody because I was able to, as you said, clout chase and use that person's fame. I think there's a couple things that's in play here. Number one, it's at a point now where Jake is starting to take this a little bit more seriously now. Like, at first it was fun. It was like funny. It's like, let me see how this thing works out. And then he started winning these fights, and he's like, oh, okay, let me do one more. Let me just do one more. And we have to remember a couple things too. You are able to, when you're gambling with what we call house money, right? So it's like, you make all kind of crazy bets. If the house is putting the money up and you're able to gamble, you splitting tens, you doing all type of nonsense because it ain't your money, right? So the position that Jake was and Logan was in when they came into the situation was not that of poverty. These were individuals that were well off. So they really didn't have anything to lose. Just to even be in a position to be able to get this level of attention from these people at this level and develop this level of notoriety in this sport that they didn't come up doing. They didn't earn it. They didn't work at it the hard way, and they just kind of took a shortcut to get there. For them, it was fun. It was something different. It was adventurous, and they started being successful, and then they started being strategic at the people that they were calling out to continue to get some sustained level of success. And in the same manner, they were doing what? They're learning on the job. So I'm learning on the job, not necessarily against the most dangerous people, but people that have a name. Start beating these people, and now he's got some confidence behind him. He's like, okay, like now I can call out people, but still strategic though. I'm calling out somebody that's several weight classes up underneath me that has a name that right now is, always in the media for something, right? So people are familiar with him, even if it's not from his boxing acumen, it's from, just whatever nonsense that he's gotten into this particular week. The thing is that I can't understand where Tank's head's at, as you said. Have you ever heard Tank? Like, have you ever listen to an interview? You heard Tank talk? Have you ever heard him? Like, you should, when after this podcast this evening or tomorrow, just look at some interviews and listen to him talk. People may call him they may say you have a high fight IQ or boxing IQ in the ring, but boxing has not done well for his overall level of intellect as far as him being able to hold basic conversations. Like if you hear his interviews, it'll make more sense what I'm saying to you. I mean, the dude, he don't sound punchy, but it's probably something that's not quite there upstairs. And then when you're looking at the trouble he's getting in now, for him to be a name that he is, I'm not really sure if he's firing on all cylinders. And taking fights like this may be a result of that. Because again, you already got money, right? You already got a name. You can fight anybody. Like anybody won't smoke with Tank. Like he can fight anybody in his weight class or even a weight class up. To be fighting people who are surely going to make a name off of you and putting yourself in such a dangerous position where you're fighting somebody that's so many weight classes in between for money, I don't really see the upside, on his side, how this can benefit him. If he beats him, okay, right. I beat one of the Paul brothers or whatever. But the people from the boxing community, they gonna clown him because they're like, dude, you can't use that as no win. We've seen you beat notable people in life for real, like guys that was actually straight up boxers, that was killers, and we've seen you beat them, and you gonna run around and you gonna try to brag on beating these guys. So it's not a lot in it for him outside of money, and it's everything in it, on the other side. So I don't know.
Now you can even look at it like the NBA players, right? They protect their legacy because LeBron never got into the dunk contest. Because if he lost, that was going to hurt his brand. So he's not going to put himself in a position to hurt his brand. I don't understand why these fighters aren't doing the same thing. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense when it's so apparent. It's very apparent what's transpiring. And at some point, it's got to be about something more than just for the money. And that's the disturbing part, is that they're giving out so much money to these people that is really causing them to kind of prostitute their legacy. It's like you're going out there and you're just going and you're doing whatever to take the money. And we're not even talking about the backdoor negotiations that's happening, that is starting to look like there's, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I try not to get into all of that, where they got deals and they making people take falls and things like that. But it's starting to look like there may be some credence to this stuff, because these people can't be on their own volition taking these fights unless they're being promised something, or unless there's some understanding that's going on that we don't, that isn't being conveyed to us. There has to be more to the story, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense on the surface.
Yep. A few years ago, me and Angel, we were on Fist Kicks and Flicks, and we was having a debate, because I was saying that I don't think Jake Paul and Logan Paul are professional boxers. I'm like, they haven't had professional fights, and Angel was saying that they were pro boxers because they were getting paid for these fights. What's your stance on that? You think they're pros, or you think they're still amateurs? Because these are, like you just said, these are exhibition fights. What do you think?
This is an excellent question. First of all, if I'm not mistaken, Jake has had at least one or two of his fights have been actual professional fights. There was not exhibitions. They only seem to be exhibitions when he's nervous or afraid or feels like there's an opportunity for him to lose, because then it gives him some wiggle room to be saying, well, hey, I'm still undefeated. But the ones that he knows he's going to win, they're always actual fights, if I'm not mistaken. The other ones that he's shaky about, or that they could potentially go either way, he makes sure that already he safeguards his legacy by making sure those are exhibitions. That way, when we're talking about it down the line, there's an asterisk next to it, and then he can say, hey, well, that doesn't count against my record. If you look at my record, you'll see that I'm still undefeated or whatever. So that's speaking to that. If that is true and he's actually had some, that means he's had the license through the commission, and technically he would be considered a professional fighter just based off of his licensing and things like that. If some of those fights were, and I can't remember, I think it was one or two of them earlier on that were not exhibitions. But I challenge you in this way to also think about it. When you go to to any one of the tournaments, national tournaments, whatever, and it's the black belt division, and they're offering money, and you're going to win $1,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. would you consider the black belts to then be professionals who fought in that division?
I don't think so, because I don't think sport karate is classified as a professional. I don't think I think it's an amateur sport. I don't think they classify it as a professional sport.
Okay, so then let's change it and do it this thing. So if there's a jiu-jitsu tournament, and then there's a jiu-jitsu tournament where there's black belts that are competing, and then the award is a large 5-foot cup, and then at one of them you're competing for the gold medal, the silver medal, the bronze medal for your country. But then you go to a tournament and then they're giving away $10,000 for the winner, and the same people compete. That's competed at the other ones for the medal or for the cup. They then compete in the division for the $10,000. Would they be considered professional athletes at that point? So do you think that those individuals, if they competed for the $10,000, they would be professional athletes?
I think now, I think in jiu-jitsu though, I think they actually consider themselves professional, because I think some guys really do that. Like, that's their job. Like some of those guys from Daisy Fresh, some of those 10th Planet guys, some of those guys that are on the B team in Kingsway, like that's all they do is teach jiu-jitsu, train, and do privates and compete. And that was something I brought up. I mean, that brought up before. It was like it's crazy. Like, sport karate has let jiu-jitsu pass them and becoming a professional sport, and because they're giving out big money. They're giving out big money. Gordon Ryan is a millionaire now. Yeah. Based off jiu-jitsu tournaments. Yeah. So I consider them. I consider those guys professionals.
So to answer the question, rather than volley it back and ask you questions, if you looked at each one of the scenarios that I've given one where these individuals were just competing recreationally, regardless of their rank, and then they were in turn competing for money. I believe that anytime there's money attached to it, it makes it professional, which is the reason why in amateur activities you cannot offer professional money. There's no money given. If we go back to sport karate, you can win. They have underbelt championships for brown belts, red belts, down bonims, junior black belts, things like that. But they're giving away a bike, an Xbox. They're giving away, an iPod or whatever the case is, because I don't think that they understand why they're doing it. They're just doing it because that's what the norm they see at other events. But the truth is that they really can't give it out, because if you give out money, it then turns these individuals to being professional. Many people who are viewers may not know this, but I promoted a great deal of kickboxing and MMA fights in Michigan, actually about 50 of them. And one of the things is that all of my events were amateur. So when I did want to start compensating the fighters, right, I had to find a way to be able to do it. And because I could not actually go out and give them money, because then the state can come in, they can shut me down.
Yeah.
So I had to then turn and say, well, what I was going to do, and a lot of other promoters do this, is you do it off of ticket sales, and that's how you make your money. So based on how much money, I'm not paying him. He's selling tickets and I'm giving him a percentage. And then I started doing things where I would give additional bonuses off of a sliding scale, meaning that if you sold so many tickets, then you go on this percentage bracket for getting this much money. And if you sold this many tickets, then it'll be a higher percentage that you get from your ticket sales, and so forth and so on. So that way some of the fighters can walk away, with a decent amount of money in their pocket, because they were amateur fighters. They were not professional. But if I just outright told them, I'm going to give you $500, for fighting, and I'm going to give you $1,000 if you win, now the same fighters with the same classifications and status, they're not professionals. The city's going to come in, they're going to shut me down, and everything's going to change. So I do believe that because of the fact that they're negotiating big money too, man. So you talking about, you brought up about how much money that jiu-jitsu is getting now versus sport karate. These guys are negotiating millions of dollars. How could he be considered an amateur, if he's getting millions and millions of dollars to fight on pay-per-view television, right? So I have to then pay to see him too. Think about the Olympics. The Olympics, many people don't know this, is an amateur sport. These people are amateurs in the Olympics. They are not professional. When we talk about the wrestler, the boxers, and the wrestlers and things like that, these guys are amateurs.
Right.
You can't compete in boxing in the Olympics if you're professional. So these people are amateurs. And when we watch them, do we have to pay to watch the Olympics? No, it's free. If you have basic television or cable television or whatever, it's free. But to watch the Paul brothers, I have to pay to be able to watch them on pay-per-view, and they're being compensated millions of dollars. That makes them professional, in my opinion.
So do they get a title fight?
Well, I'm sure that I don't think that they can, to be honest with you, I don't think that they can be fighting and doing what they're doing, making the money that they're making with the commission involved, if they are not both licensed as professional fighters. Regardless as to whether or not the fights that they're having are classified as amateur, classified as exhibition, I believe that in order to be able for the commission and the state to let these boys get cut that much money that they get in, they have to have professional licensing. So with that said, they absolutely will be able to get title fights.
I think it's going to be kind of hard to give them a title shot when all you've had is exhibition fights. If you haven't fought anybody that's ranked or in the top 10, but you're bringing in the numbers, I mean, that's a hell of a discussion right there, man. I mean, not from us. I'm talking about for the boxers and, the promoters to have.
They're very smart because, like I said earlier on, they found a way to be able to play it both ways. So it's not going to go on my record because it's an exhibition. We're both going to get paid. We're going to go out there and we're going to do our thing. But if I beat you, even though it'll count on my record, I still have the footage and everybody still saw it. So I can then use this to leverage in an argument why I should be able to fight for a title fight. Because if you look at the resume of people that I've fought and defeated, these are all notable people. But it's not on my record. So if I lose to them, it can't hurt me. But if I beat them, it actually helps me to be able to actually have a sustainable argument. It's kind of like a polygraph test, right? Those things are inadmissible in court. So it's like the test is like, if I take this lie detector test and I fail it, then by all means, this thing can be brought into place and, he failed this, and this is, but if I pass it, it's like, oh no, we can't talk about that. You know what I mean? It's like they found a really clever loophole to be able to potentially position themselves to where in the future, given the numbers that you're talking about, they're bringing in, the mixed crossover viewership that they're bringing in, and then the names of the people that they are fighting and beating, even though they're exhibitions, they're going to use this to be able to leverage, to be able to potentially one day talk about fight for a title.
Yeah, I guess, man. It just seems iffy, man, because I don't know if, let's say I can't see them beating anybody that's in their top 10 in the heavyweight division, right? And if they fight anybody in the top 10, those boys are going to be training their asses off because they're not gonna go for the backroom negotiations. They ain't gonna go for it. These boys is gonna be coming to try to take your head and your heart. For sure. All this backroom negotiating where we ain't gonna try to knock each other out and you might take a fall here or there. I'm not sure if that's what's going on. That's what a lot of people think happening. I don't know. But these boys, they got a legacy, they got a title, they have a way of living, and they're not going to go for those negotiations. So he may just play it safe. He may never even go to that level. He might just be the guy that just knock everybody else off and stay away from the heavy hitters. Who knows? But I want to ask you this question because I know you remember some stuff from the old school too. So you remember back in the day when the Gracie phenomenon first hit here in America and they had the Gracie in Action DVDs. Remember those Gracie in Action DVDs? I've never watched them back in the day, but I have seen them on YouTube. Yeah, I got them. Yeah.
I got them. I got every one of them. You know what I mean? Like I was hooked, and it really captivated me as a traditional martial artist who was crossing over into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because these were individuals who had well-established schools that were taking these challenges. This Gracie challenge is what they offered, and for those who don't know it, this is what the UFC was pretty much built on. It came from this. The Gracie challenges, they were offering $50,000 if you can beat any one of the people from their families, and they would go to these various schools and they would challenge these lethal, deadly black belt grandmasters. They like, we want the owner, the guy who's supposed to be the best or whatever the case is, and we'll fight him. And here's what the deal was. And you'll see how this kind of ties in. The deal was if you beat one of our family members, you know, or whatever, we'll pay you the $10,000 or $50,000 or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact monetary figure. But if you lose, we get the footage. So we're gonna have somebody recording, and we get the footage.
Mm-hmm.
That was because they understood that this was more important and significant than money by having the footage, and then by having the rights to the footage. Then I could turn around and show the effectiveness of our art. I could spin it however I want. And they made that money back off them DVD sales because I show bought every one of them, and everybody I know was buying them and watching them and things like that. You can then shape and spin the narrative by having the actual footage. When you talk about these title fights and these exhibitions, again, they might not go on their record, but we got the footage though. I fought them, I beat them, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, I fought him and I beat him. So if I would have lost, it didn't hurt my record. I'm still undefeated. But when I win, I get the footage. And I got that footage so that when we sit down and we have these conversations and these talks in the future and people are questioning, you haven't fought this person, that person, anybody around. Hey, listen, I fought him, I beat him. But then we're exhibitions. Hey, listen, man, we was in a boxing ring. We fought, we got paid. Call it what you want to call it. And this is going to be their argument should they choose to want to fight for a title in the future, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think so. Let's move on. But that's a good way of breaking it down. The fight that's coming up though, because Jake Paul and Tank Davis is going to be in November 14th. But the fight that's coming up in a couple of weeks, Canelo versus Crawford, September 13th, and that's going to be on Netflix. And that's a production by Zuffa or TKO.
Yeah. You know, I'm not sure how Dana's pulling this stuff off. I know that he started off as, you know, he started off in boxing initially, so I'm sure he still has deep ties into that. But I saw something he was promoting. It was like, come sit with Dana or something, or Dana has the best seats or something. And I don't know what I saw where he was like promoting to where he can get you like one of the best seats or something like that. So I knew he was like knee deep into this thing when I was saying stuff like that. But it's just, man, I think that he understands the dollars and the money that's involved in boxing. One of the big falling outs that he had with Francis Ngannou is that when Francis wanted to start boxing, he wanted to try to bring up his contract. He was afraid of losing Francis altogether. And I know these things because I'm good friends with Dewey Cooper as well. And he's his primary coach and trainer. And it was just a mess. You know, he obviously was concerned, which rightfully so, from a UFC standpoint, but also he wanted to cut of that money. He wanted some of that big money that was coming in. And you know, Francis like, but for what though? You know what I mean? Like, I got trainers over here and Dewey and Eric Nixon. I got, you know, I'm the one putting in the work. I got my own agents brokering these deals. So I think that when he missed the boat there, and he's seeing a lot of these MMA fighters now crossing over to chase the bag over into boxing, he needs to make sure that he reestablishes himself, you know, there. So that way he can also be the beneficiary of getting some of this as well. So it's a smart move on his part.
Who you think wins? I want Crawford, but I think it might be Canelo. I think it's going to be a decision.
This is probably the most torn I've been. I follow both of them. I follow Canelo far more than I follow Bud Crawford. And when I say follow, I mean as far as actually sitting down watching his fights. I've watched a lot of, you know, Terrence Crawford's fights too. Don't get me wrong, but Canelo was always must-see TV, and I felt like Canelo was a little bit more frequent of a fighter than Terrence Crawford. So with that said, their strengths is what's gonna make the fight interesting. Yeah, I think that Bud's gonna work behind his jab. We saw him use a master. It was a master class, you know, his last fight, how we use that jab and would just be able to keep distance. And he was really introducing to a lot of people who didn't really know about it, the power jab, you know, by being able to just throw a regular jab and then being able to change the speed and the dynamic of the jab to become a power jab, almost like a power punch. He did a lot of damage with that and did a really great job of garnering a level of success with that. Canelo's a great and I think a much better body puncher. So I think that he'll be able to get inside, and if he gets him on the ropes, he's going to be able to inflict damage that's going to slow him down as the rounds, as it goes deeper into the rounds. Which obviously we know the body work takes legs away, and just really kind of changes the dynamic of the fight for sure. With that said, one of the things I'm concerned about Canelo, and I tell people this all the time, and they don't understand what I'm saying until they watch his fight. Canelo takes rounds off. So he'll have an amazing 1 or 2 rounds, and then he just won't show up in a round. He'll just take the whole round off. And I'm like, he's just not, the activity level is down exponentially. He can't do that in front of Bud Crawford. He's too dangerous. He's too powerful, you know what I mean? And he's too dangerous. So with that said, if I have to, look at their fighting styles, if I have to look at their records, if I have to look at their strengths, I have to give it to Terence Crawford by decision. I think that, Canelo's already picked up a loss to somebody at a super high level in Floyd, his only loss. But again, I'm not saying that Terence Crawford is Floyd, but they're on that same type of a high level. Mm-hmm. So when we seen him fight I'm not saying we haven't seen him fight other guys at the high level, but his one loss was to somebody that was at that level, likened to the level that Terence Crawford is on right now, and the trajectory that he's on right now. And I believe that from an offensive standpoint, we know that Floyd is a master counterpuncher, but from an offensive standpoint, Bud Crawford's more dangerous offensively than a Floyd. I think he's going to utilize his jab really well, keep distance. He's going to take away some of the things that Canelo does well. Canelo's tough as nails. He's going to, give him a heck of a fight. But I just think that, Terence wins by decision.
Do you think so? I looked at Crawford's record. He's 41-0. Mm-hmm. So he's getting close to that 50-0. Do you think he's gonna do like Floyd did and just take, some easier fights to get to 50? You think that's gonna happen?
I think that depends on how this fight goes. I think that depends on how this fight goes. Again, we are fans of television, and movies. And like you look at the old Rocky 3, and it was at some point where Mick was like, look, like I saw you in some of these fights and you didn't really look the best. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start lining these guys up, these has-beens, and we're going to keep it rolling because Mick need to make some money too. He was making some money too. He's like, I need to make some money. I need to stay in a big house. You know what I'm saying? So I need to protect your legacy. I need to keep you safe. And, Rocky found out about it.
Yeah.
He thought he could fight some dogs. And he's like, okay, we see how the Rocky series dramatically changed after that one individual decision that he made. Now, had Rocky been dominant in his previous fights, then maybe he wouldn't have felt the need to be able to, take those fights that he did and just kind of protect him, So I think that it would depend on how this fight goes. If he wins and he wins in dominant fashion, it's going to increase his level of confidence, and he's going to go out looking to be more dominant and fight much more dangerous opponents. If he ekes out a victory, then he's going to start looking like, okay, look, I need to start being careful because I want to beat Floyd's record, and in order to do so, I don't need to be in these close call fights anymore. And I think that him and his management and his coaches will kind of use this as a litmus test to be able to see what type of fights they need to take moving forward.
That's going to kill Floyd too. That is going to eat at him.
Yep. Yeah. And it's coming. It's too many people that's talented and that's young and that's fighting frequently where it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And that's what happened. We remember, with the Rocky Marciano thing, like that was their guy back in the day. And that's the reason why Floyd didn't retire at the 49. He I need to get at least 50 because I can't have these people. And then I need to fight past this, but I don't want to lose after 50. I don't want to be like a Julio Cesar Chavez that got all these fights. He up there near 100 and then lose, right? I can't, because if I lose, then they're going to hold this Rocky Marciano thing over my head forever. So I'm going to stay at 50, but I'm going to box after 50 and win. And then I can use that as an argument of why I am better. So I think it's inevitable that the people are on a trajectory where they're going to pass him. And he's going to have to decide at some point in time what he's going to do. Because once he's out of that talk, I think that his level of relevance is going to decrease exponentially because there's a lot of fronts where Floyd isn't really viewed upon as a good or decent person. Like a lot of people aren't fans of him as the person. You know what I mean?
So he has a lot of questionable.
He has a lot of questionable things that has transpired in his life as a person. A lot of blemishes. And once he doesn't have that anymore, where he's able to kind of boast that, I think that that's going to his level of relevance is going to decrease substantially. So he needs to keep this. So that's going to be another topic for another day as guys get closer. What's he going to do? He's just getting older, and guys can only box twice a year. So that means that if he's 41-0, he's going to need what? Another 9 fights to tie, which is going to be another what?
4 years or so?
4 or 5 years. So Floyd to be 5 years older by the time he ties his record or breaks it. So is he going to come out of retirement early when you see him getting close and fight? Or is he going to wait to see if it happens and then come out at 50? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? 50, 52, 53, and then start trying to fight some guys.
Yeah, that would not be a smart decision. Hold on, I'm about to pull up to see how old Crawford is. I saw it a few minutes ago and I lost it. So let me pull that up real quick. Crawford is 37 now.
So yeah. So you're talking about and guys prime used to be around 30, 35 in boxing, but I mean it's getting like to like 40. You know, guys are still looking good at 40 in boxing if they've been rolling, if they've been continuously fighting, proper nutrition, rest, all the things that we know we're supposed to do, preserving their body and things like that. So that means that we're talking about by the time he's 42, you know, he can be breaking Floyd's record. Yeah. How old is Floyd?
Floyd, I don't think he's much younger than me. I think Floyd might be about, because I'm 48. I'll be 49 next month. So I think Floyd is like 47. Let me see.
Man.
Let's see.
I'm thinking he's around there.
Yeah. Here he is. Oh. Yeah, he's 48.
So we're talking about 53. So you got one guy that's breaking the record of 42, and then this guy trying to come out of retirement at 53 to defend his record. I don't know.
He might do a Jake Paul, man. He might get somebody he know he can beat. Somebody come out. He might get Pacquiao. Come on, let's do another fight, Pacquiao. And Pacquiao will do it. He'll do it. I don't think he'll win, but he'll do it.
But that'll only matter if you win that one fight. Great. But remember, Crawford's still going to just be 42, 43 years old. He like, well, I'll just take another fight. I'm still relatively young. I can fight for another 3 years until I'm 45, 46. Can you pace me and fight until you 55, 57, 59? Can you keep up?
Yeah, that
How much money do you got to pay these guys to keep taking these falls? Can you keep up?
Yeah, man. Father Time is undefeated, so that wouldn't be smart. So let's move on to our next one, man. So I got a question for you as a jiu-jitsu white belt myself, and you're a professor. How often should you train BJJ? So let's talk about someone who's a hobbyist, somebody who is a jiu-jitsu competitor, and someone who is an MMA fighter. What is your what's your suggestion to them?
So for a hobbyist, this is somebody obviously that's just doing it because they enjoy it. Jiu-jitsu has done a really good job of marketing, and I didn't think that this would happen back in the day, but they became really smart and they found a way to market this as not just from a competitive standpoint, but for fitness too. So you have a lot of people, and jiu-jitsu is the type of activity that, believe it or not, given the nature of it, you can actually do in your advanced years, because it's one of the safest martial arts because of the tap system. So unlike in karate or anything else, you know, a guy can't be getting ready to punch me in my face and then I sit up there and say, okay, stop, you got it, right? I'm going to get punched in the body or face or kicked or whatever the case is, and I'm going to take that damage even if we have protective equipment on, even if we're still going at a reduced speed or reduced power. I still have to take that impact. And jiu-jitsu has a tap system. And so you can do whenever it's too much, you can tap out so people can do it in their advanced years. So they've really done a great job of marketing it, not just for MMA, not just for competition, but for fitness. So you have these hobbyists of people that's doing it because either they want to just do something fun and challenging to be fit. Maybe they feel like they missed the boat from being a competitive individual in their yesteryears and they want to still be able to just do this and to say that they did something physical. I would say 2 days a week is substantial if you are a hobbyist. I think that's the minimum amount of time that you really can do an activity like this where you can pick up on it, you can learn. But by the same token, it can give you the fitness benefits or whatever you joined for, the camaraderie, the team atmosphere, or just you learning some self-defense. I think 2 days a week. Most of those classes are anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. I'm thinking you're getting some decent time in there. And again, if you're a hobbyist, you're just doing it as a hobby. You're a person that probably has a full-time job. You have a family. And this is not something that you're looking at doing competitively or at any level outside of just recreation and fun. If you are a jiu-jitsu competitor, I think that you have to be doing a minimum of 3 days, a minimum of 3 days a week. That's going to be your two days, and you roll every class. That's the difference between jiu-jitsu and traditional martial arts is that at some point in time, you rolling that, whether you want to, you aware of it or not, it's happening before you leave, right? But those are 2 great days for technique, and then 1 day for just rolling and implementation. 3 days would be the minimum. And when we talk about competitor, we're asking like what kind of competitor, what level competitor. If you're talking about white belt, blue belt, something like that, you can get away with 3 days and still go out there and you can compete and you can find and garner some level of success. If you're a purple belt or higher, you're gonna have to do probably more than 3 days. You got to at least be doing 4 days, for sure. If you're a purple belt or higher, and the reason why is that purple belts, man, some of these purple belts can go after black belts. You know what I mean? Like they can catch them. There's a different group and level of purple belts nowadays than what it used to be back in the day. Mm-hmm. These guys are fierce and they're hungry. So they're trying to get their brown belt, so they're trying to get a tap on you, mm-hmm. Mr. Black Belt, on Mr. Brown Belt, whatever else, 4-stripe purple belt. So yeah, you gotta definitely, I would say you need those 4 days for sure. If you purple belt higher. From an MMA guy, you would want to go up and you would think that you would say more. You would say like 5 days. You would think. But I would probably reserve 4 or 5 days for the jiu-jitsu competitor. So remember, I did say minimum when I've said about the purple belt or higher 4 because 5 would be ideal. But again, some people have jobs and families and things like that. So you can get away with them 4. For MMA, I would go back down and I would say maybe about 3 days because of the amount of other aspects that you have to focus on. You have to focus on your wrestling as well. You have to focus on your striking, your boxing, and things like that. And then you have other things you have to do, like your road work, and your strength and conditioning. So it would be nice to be able to realistically say you need to do jiu-jitsu every day, but it's just not going to happen. You're probably not going to do anything every day outside of probably strike because of the fact that the fight starts on the feet. But your jiu-jitsu, depending upon what kind of MMA fighter you are, at the very least needs to be functional. And I believe that you have to be doing it at least 3 days to have the functional jiu-jitsu necessary to be able to work out of bad positions and capitalize off of good positions. But if you can do it more, and if you're in the position, you should really be doing it 5 days a week, honestly, because of the fact that I'm seeing such a level of neglect in so many areas of jiu-jitsu that when you look at MMA, it's embarrassing. We didn't talk about the Chimaev and the DDP fight, that just happened the other week. Mm-hmm. And I've been putting some pictures up and some things up on my Facebook. Even you've commented on it as well, and on all my social media platforms. And the amount of comments that's just been coming in, talking about it, either expressing how much they enjoyed it or their level of disdain for it has just been, incredible. But the truth of the matter is the people who are frustrated, they're frustrated for a couple of reasons. One is that, Khamzat didn't attempt to finish the fight. Like, as dominant as he was, he didn't go for any submission attempts, and I can justify reasons why maybe he did or he didn't, right? But more importantly, DDP kept putting these positions, and he couldn't get out. He looked like he did not have the answer. And this is why it's important. Like, if you know that this isn't your signature, your specialty, your calling card as a MMA fighter, you need to be on that mat 5 days a week working that, period. If you're a striker, for sure, you got to be. Because if I know that my wrestling, my jiu-jitsu sucks, I know that it's a very good chance I'm going to be in this position if I'm fighting a guy like this. So maybe the answer to this should be fight camp situational, depending upon the fighter that you're fighting. But it's just a general broad scope. I would say 3 days a week at minimum. It would be nice if you can get 5 out, but that just depends on how you are able to balance your training schedule and regime.
What do you think? So, John Danaher and Gordon Ryan at their academy, they have their students training 7 days a week, and they're doing 2 times. Now, I don't know if every day is 2 days, but for the vast majority of those guys who are doing the ADCC, they're doing 2 days a week, 2 classes a day. No telling how long those classes are, and 7 days a week. Is that too much? Are they overdoing it?
I believe that they are, and I would say that probably for any type of activity, if it was boxing, if it was karate or kickboxing or wrestling. Again, the reason they can get away with it is because jiu-jitsu is a type of thing that you can actually pace the type of a level of aggression, and there's ways that you can get around doing it where it's not as extreme as some other sports. I can't get away with that with wrestling. I'm sorry. It don't matter if we say, oh, we're going to just wrestle light. Wrestling is hard. Like everything about it. It's like, it's hard to be able to effectively do it and go at half speed. And at some point, like striking, somebody going to take a shot or something like that, or try to defend, and the level whereas it might start at 35 or 50%, it's going to just naturally raise itself up to 100%. And then you can do a body. We all see, we going to just go light when people sprawling and somebody get that good shot off, and then the other guy got to get the lick back. And then before you know it, we started off saying we weren't going to go hard, but then we banged. And it's like, it's like, man, what happened? I thought y'all was going to, well, he hit me back. So it's jiu-jitsu is a flow thing where we can really find different drills and activities to where we can be getting some good work in, but not killing each other. But I don't think that's what's happening over there. I think that's how it's supposed to start. And then eventually when you get rolling, because for some reason you got to roll every class. Like there's no class you're going to come in, just work technique and go home. We're going to roll tomorrow or on Friday or whatever. You roll every class. And it always starts off where everybody's chill, until you run into that, overzealous blue belt or that purple belt that's trying to make a name for himself. And everybody said it's going to be chill. And then this dude trying to pull out all these moves he saw on YouTube. And then before you know it, we're going too hard. So I think that it is too much because the body needs time to recuperate. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about jiu-jitsu, this is an activity where even if we're going at a lighter speed, we're still cranking on joints. Right, I'm still taking. You ever been put in the toe hold? You got to turn somebody's ankle sideways like that. You ever had your knee extended in the knee bar, and then you don't tap right away, and then the guy tries to rip it a little bit more. Do you tap? Your arm is fully extended and stretched out on an arm bar. Outside of chokes, which ain't gonna do a ton of damage other than kill your brain cells if you keep letting the guy put you to sleep. Everything else is me twisting a shoulder, extending an arm or a ligament or a foot or a knee. That's too much to not have any recovery time in between for sure. So I think that if it's done correctly, where it's broken up to where it has different focal points and not just rolling, then you can get away with saying we're going to do 2 a days, 7 days a week. But to just know how jiu-jitsu is when you have a room full of people like that, I just know that that's not what's being done. And at the end of the day, it's just too much because it's going to get out of control and the body needs time to recuperate and heal.
And you know what, too? A lot of those guys, they're doing no gi. They're not even training in the gi also. So that's even more hard on your body. So
that's true. That's true.
Right. Let's move on to our last topic, man. It's time for the professor's perspective. Here we go.
All right. So this is a crucifix that you can catch from what I call the sit-up sweep. Some people call it the bump sweep. So when you're in the guard and the person, is inside your guard, you sit up. This works best when you can get the person's hands on the mat, some type of way, pulling them forward with your legs, or maybe if they have the hands on the chest, clearing them out. And I'll sit up like I'm going for either the Kimura or like I'm going for the sit-up sweep. So he doesn't know. if I'm going for the Kimura or if I'm going for the bump sweep, the sit-up sweep. Naturally, what a lot of people do is they hug you to protect that arm, because either way, whether you're going for the sweep or the Kimura, you need to control that arm. So once he hugs you and he has his head down, hunkered down, all I'm doing is I'm taking my arm like a trucker's elbow, the opposite arm, and I'm going right behind his neck. And then I'm scooping up underneath the armpit. And when I scoop underneath the armpit, I then join the arms together. So now I have that far side arm right there. And I use that driver foot. So in this particular instance, it's my right foot. And I use that to drive and turn him over in that opposite direction to turn him on his back. Now, here's where it gets slick at. I could just let it go and take the sweep. But because I still have his head, remember, I took the arm here. And when I looped up underneath and I joined my hands together, that means I still had his head. So once I actually roll him over and end up on top, I still have his head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just post my arm on the floor and I'm going to Kesagatami out, right? So that's just a hip switcher. And when I do that and I lean back, because I still have his head, it's going to put pressure on his neck. So it's a topside crucifix. So I can finish there if I want. But if I kick that leg out right there and I lean back, it puts pressure on his neck. It becomes a neck crank, and that becomes a submission. So I can just use it for the purposes of the sweep itself to get the top side. But because I still have his head, I get that crucifix. Guys now are loving to jump that top side guillotine. So my arm is right there. So rather than posting it on the floor, I could always wrap around his neck and just hop into the mount position. You're seeing that a lot now. It's very prevalent today where it wasn't as much before. But that neck, I have it. So rather than just let it go, I'm going to take advantage of it. So by posting that arm on the floor and lifting his arm up and Kesagatamiing, it puts me in a position where I'm sitting on my hip and I can just lean back and it puts pressure on his neck. If I don't like that, I can go for that topside guillotine, just by wrapping around his neck, joining my hands together, jumping for mount. Or if I'm satisfied with the sweep, if it's MMA, I can just let the head go, turn to side control position, and start working on elbows.
Nice. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or iHeart or any of the streaming platforms and you want to see the description, check us out on our YouTube page, because I have a video as Isaiah is describing his move of the week for this week. So make sure you guys go to the Martial Arts Center Network, look up the Winner Circle, and you can check out the video and you can see what he is explaining. Good show today, man. We made
Great
it.
show, man. Great show. Great show. Just rolling with two. I miss our other podcast, buddies, man. But it's still, the show must go on, man. And I think that it was a great show and enjoyed the topics today for sure.
There you go. You think we can make it 2 in a week? I mean, my bad. 2 consecutive weeks. Do you think we can do it, Isaiah?
I don't know. Now I'm embarrassed. Because next week I'm supposed to be in Detroit, so I don't even know if I'm gonna be back in time. So we'll see. But we're gonna try, guys. We're gonna work to get this level of consistency together. I think we can do this. We can make it happen. Even if I'm not there, my podcast partners will be here and they can rock it out. But we got to do something because it's too much fun, man, having the show. I hate when we don't. Miss you, brothers, man. Right. I know there's so many people look forward to it as well.
Right. Hey, are you going to be here for the Ultimate Warrior Challenge in a couple of weeks? The Prames tournament. I know you came. Didn't you come a couple of years ago?
I came. I was there last year. And I was there. I think either the year before that or it was 2 years before that. So yeah, I've been like twice in the last few years. So I think I'm gonna miss it because I have a ribbon cutting ceremony that's supposed to be from my school this week. So I got to go in town for that, and then I have 2 of my black belts testing for their second degree on Saturday. So I'm going to try to get out of there Saturday night, Sunday morning, and head back. And then after I get back, I probably won't be doing very much traveling between now and the end of the year, just to try to get things stabilized on all fronts. So I'll probably miss it this year, but it's definitely a great tournament. I really enjoy it each time I'm there. A large in part to the numbers that they're pulling out and how many people support them. I get an opportunity to see all my friends, man, and family members and people in the martial art community I haven't seen because everybody goes to the tournament. So it's kind of like a catch-all. I get a chance to be able to see great competition and then catch up with everybody at the same time. So if I miss it, I definitely hate that I miss it, but I'll be at the next one for sure.
Okay. Well, I know me and my students will be there. We'll definitely be there at the Ultimate Warrior Challenge. Believe it is, let me just double check here. It is going to be September 13th. September 13th. So
Yeah,
day
yeah,
before my dad's birthday.
yeah. I'm gonna just. I think I'm gonna just miss it. So
all right. Well, cool, man. So next week we'll be right back on the Winner Circle, and we'll have some more topics with jiu-jitsu, MMA, and other combat sports. Everyone, stay safe, stay strong. We'll holler at you next week, and I will end this stream.